from the medieval city of Limerick on the southwest coast of Ireland, otherwise known as the Emerald Isle, and a Céad Míle Fáilte to my story. I am Mary Honan, and through the magic of the internet, our shows are available across the globe. My story invites people from all walks of life to share their own individual stories, some happy, some very sad, and many recalling the very worst experiences of man's inhumanity to man. On today's show, my very special guest, Dr. Bridgette Williams, a native of Spotsville County, Virginia, USA. She holds a PhD in counselling and a master's degree in mental health counselling. She is also a licensed and certified chaplain. Her entire career has been focused not only on helping families and individuals overcome their addictions and mental health issues, but also in providing clients with positive direction for their future. Dr. Williams is a licensed substance abuse and mental health counsellor and maintains a busy practice in Fredericksburg that serves clients in more than 5 counties. She is also active politically, having initiated several bills to the Virginia legislature to aid widows and to improve service in the mental health field. Dr. Williams, a widow, provides free grief counselling for widows and widowers. And I'm delighted today to welcome Dr. Bridgette to my show. Hello, Bridgette.
Hi.
How are you?
I am fine, and I'm so excited and so glad to be able to be sitting on this platform today. I know we tried this to be our second time
Listen,
or third time trying to get together, and I'm so excited to share with you everything that so far that I've accomplished since the last time we talked. It has been at least for a good year. Um,
oh, as it was just around the time that our good friend, uh, our good friend Alice Butler Short, may
yeah,
she rest in peace.
yeah.
Alice was just, I have to take this time to say, she was an extraordinary woman to everybody she met. Alice was originally from Tipperary, but had made her home in Virginia, in the USA, and she was married also to a member of the military
Yes.
as your own husband. So Alice had really adapted to the United States, but her death was so sudden and so unexpected,
Mhm.
Bridgette.
Yes,
But
yes.
at least, we connected through her.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, Alice had such a wonderful, I think, connection with others that, believe it or not, there are many of us that was in her inner circle, that we all connected together. And even after she passed, and you're right, it was so unexpected. We all have maintained some form of some kind of connection or friendship, or I'm going to say business or whatever. And it was all because of Alice. Alice was, to me, was a mover and a shaker. And matter of fact, I think I may have told you, I don't know, she may have told you that her and I, we were in the process of putting together a
Sugar and spice.
sugar and spice, absolutely. And I was looking so forward to it. Matter of fact, we were going to do a clothing line, skincare line. We were coming together with a lot of great ideas. And unfortunately, she passed. But, it's interesting because the woman that lives in my area, she knew Alice, and we ended up adopting that actual slogan. I'm always the spicy one. And then I called her friend Laura, Sugar, and it just worked out even better. So
She
it's
was she was just a very, very special woman. But one of these women that once she was determined on doing something, Bridgette, she did it 100%. There was no half measures with Alice.
no, it was not. I'm going to be honest. I have adopted some of Alice, her finesse and drive and spirit. I wonder. I think her spirit lives in me. At the rate I am on a mission, And I know Alice, she would not give up. She would continue to press forward. She would keep moving on no matter what. You could have told her, no, no, I'm going to find a way to get around that.
But now to talk about you, Bridgette,
Yes.
you're a counselor, and you work with people with addictions. And as you can see here, I have rock bottom became the solid foundation of which I built my life, and that was J.K. Rowling. And I think it's a very important work that you do, working with people with addictions of
Yes.
some sort. Maybe you tell me how you went down that road.
Well, I come from a family of addiction. My dad was an alcoholic. He was a raging alcoholic. And my brother, which I named my center after, the Angela Recovery and Counseling Services. The original name of it was just Angela Recovery Center. His
Yeah.
name was his real name was Angelo Ron Carley Garnett, but we called him Ronnie. But his name really was Angelo, but I named my center after him. And, my thing was I wasn't planning to do that when he died unexpectedly as well. And, when you're in the throes of addiction and you're not even able to stop because you're abusing your body so bad,
Yeah.
when it's going to either be either your last drink or your last shoot up. You don't know that. But we already know that you're already on a dangerous path that is not going to turn out to be looking real pretty for him. And it didn't.
Yeah.
He died unexpectedly. And so therefore it was interesting when he passed away, I was already I was working on my undergrad. And it was funny because right after he passed away, with me being in my undergrad, at that time, the second war had kicked off, and I had sent my husband off to war, and I went right back into school. And while I was going back into school, what was the first class, the class that we signed up for? Substance abuse.
Wow.
Yes, talk about divine intervention. And when I went from there, I looked into it and I really got engrossed into it. And I learned a lot of things. And considering that I came from a family of addiction, just because you come from a family of addiction doesn't mean that you understand what addiction is about. But
No.
yes, but I began to get a deeper understanding. And from that point on, there was a spark in me that said, one day I am going to start a center, and I'm going to name that center after my brother. And
It
that's
isn't an easy thing to start anything off, Alice, or Alice, as sorry, she's in my head, and
yes, that's
she's probably watching down on both of us right now for
that's
that. But
okay.
yeah, but that she's what was I going to say? It's not an easy thing to set up
Mm-hmm.
a foundation. That's Alice, the lovely Alice,
There's our girl right there,
our girl.
looking
My
just
God, what a
beautiful.
woman! What an exceptional woman.
Yes, she was. She was an
I get
exceptional.
emotional when I think of her because she was so good to us here in Lyra Media.
Yeah.
She got us some amazing guests, and it just happened that she was on the phone with me 2 days beforehand, and next thing I knew, she was dying,
Yes.
and she was dead within a few days. And
Yeah.
it just all happened. It's surreal the way it happened.
Yeah.
But you you wrote a book called The Shepherd's Pie,
It's called the
and
Shepherd's Pie.
in which you really talk about. I was reading bits of it. I haven't got the full book yet, but I was reading bits of it, and you went through enormous depression
I did.
um,
Yeah.
at one stage before your husband died.
Yes, actually, way before my husband passed away. Um, I'm going to say it was back in 1990, which actually probably was 92, 93. I went into a major episode of depression. It was really severe to the point where I had thoughts of suicide, and I actually, went into the act. But it's, the book is a metaphor. A lot
Yeah.
of people ask me, because first of all, it took me 15 years to write that book. Now, I'm going to be honest. Why did it take me 15 years? Well, life, I'm working, got a family, I started jotting things down. I had no intentions on writing a book, to be honest. This is just a snippet of my life, just a snippet, a piece and a portion of my life. But I started writing things down of what had happened about my life. And then all of a sudden, I'd stop. Now, I always kept a binder. I'd stopped, and then before I realized, I get distracted, and then I go into something else. And you're raising a family again, and you're getting a job, and you're going to school, and then I pick something back up, and I start writing again. Here's my point: I finally finished the book. Matter of fact, just prior before my husband passed away, I was working with somebody to do me a favor and asked them could they do some editing for me.
Yeah.
And so they said they were willing to do some editing. And then at that point, what happened was my husband unexpectedly, he just passed away. It was like I wasn't expecting him to pass away. He was not sick. And so I stopped in dead air again. And at that point, I went through a grieving process. And from there, the same person that was doing some editing, matter of fact, he's my office manager now. We talked and he said, don't you think this is a good time to finish that book? And it was him, my friend Ron, who said, I think it's time for you to finish that book. And I finally picked it back up and we finished it. And it was like a sense of breath of fresh air that, oh my gosh, it took me all these years. And I dedicated that book to my husband because, it was, if it wasn't for him, he really encouraged me to do it. Some of it was fear. I was scared.
Yeah. Sometimes I think the fear of failure is or the fear even of unearthing these memories and the emotions is worse than the actual when you come out the other side having done something. I know from my own book and my own PhD, the process is often harder actually thinking about it at the start than it is at the end. And at the end of it, you're saying to yourself, what, it wasn't as bad as, and the experience was worth it in the long run.
Well, let me tell you really what my fear was. My fear was being worried. Are they really gonna like this book? Because I don't think it really had much to say. That's what I kept saying to myself.
But Bridgette, isn't that the same with everybody? I mean, I've often thought of writing down my thoughts, my own experiences, my own grief. And I find myself saying, sure, I have nothing to say. Now, I've written 120,000 word book. But at the end of the day, you then think, well, how, my life is not important. Who would want to even listen to my story or my grief? Or why do we do that to ourselves?
Again, I'm thinking that we get this own self-doubt in our own headspace and we get this dialogue going on because we just don't think we have anything to say. And some of it, again, is all built in fear. Some of it is because we've never been encouraged. I myself, I know for me, it was all about fear. And I says, nobody's going to really want to hear this story. So what? Everybody has a story every day. But here we go. The author is all about what makes your story unique. And I felt like my story was unique. It was very unique to me. It was very unique. And to be honest with you, Mary, I'm getting a lot of responses. I had one young lady that who purchased the book and she said, oh my gosh, she texted me. She said, thank you so very much for writing this book. And I said, well, why? She says, because I too went through a dangerous religious group, being abused as well.
You were involved in a number of churches.
Yes.
And you didn't have a positive experience with them. No. I mean, I'm Roman Catholic, so for me it probably would be just going to the same church. I have the same church forever, St. John's Cathedral. That is my church. Right. You seem to have gone to several different Christian churches to find, I suppose, your home, if you like, your spiritual home, a place where you could actually worship, and you didn't have good experiences. It's safe
Well,
to say.
Mary, it was a combination of things. Number one, I did learn this. If an individual go through at least 11 major life events and you don't talk to anybody about it, and this is within about a 3-year time frame,
Yeah,
that's a lot for one person to carry on. Now let's, out of one of those major events, they move from one state to another state. That's one major event. They said the average person can only go through so many, at least one major event after so many years. I went through
mm,
11 major events in about 3 years, and it wore
yeah,
down on me. Now I know what I know. When you go through a taxing amount of stress, expect yourself to have some form of anxiety. Well, I've learned
yeah,
I've had anxiety my whole life. Now that's a whole different gamut that we're talking about when we're talking about characteristics and traits of what people come from when we're dealing with anxiety disorder, which comes from it's a form of, it's a mental health issue, but it's an issue is how we seem to control our own emotions. That came from me being in a very dysfunctional family system that I had. But here's my point going forward. I went through 11 major events, and I was suffering with a form of anxiety disorder that was very severe at that time, and I did not know this. I knew I had some quirks with me, but it just kind of really spun out of control. And then if you're already having some mental health issues that was not addressed at that time, and you go from one church to the next church to the next church, you're thinking, okay, there's something wrong, and I don't want anybody to think I'm crazy. And the moment you mention something about what you think that you're feeling or whatever, then they come out with their religious ways. Well, that ain't nothing but the devil. Well, my gosh, if a person already had anxiety and panic, why would you tell them that? And then you
yeah,
browbeat them and say, well, it's your faith is the reason why you're not getting healthy, you're not getting well. Well, why would you do that? So mine's
yeah.
was a combination of issues, how I end up going from one church to the next church. That's why I said, you read the book makes sense.
But I suppose in a sense, your going from one church to another was also a metaphor for your life, really, because you were in a place, you weren't in a good place mentally,
No.
and finding a church almost was like trying to find a home, a place where you personally were going to feel
Yes.
whole.
Yes.
And probably it wasn't until the moment that you sought help and those women that were dressed, as you said, in old-fashioned outfits turned up at your door when you tried to commit suicide or take your own life. We don't like using the word phrase commit suicide anymore, but
Right.
taking your own life. Maybe you'd bring us to that moment when you took the gun out. Well, firstly, as somebody who lives in Ireland and we don't have guns, and I know America, certainly around the South, are very protective over their guns. I
Yes.
personally don't get the
Second Amendment.
obsession with having guns in your home because it makes it um, too accessible if you have to happen to have mental health issues or you feel like you can no longer go on. The gun is too accessible.
Mhm.
Do you agree or disagree, or are you pro gun? And if you are, how did that settle with you? The idea that you could just go to your closet, get your gun out, put bullets in, and within a second you could have taken your own life, and it might have been a cry for help.
Mhm. Okay, to answer the question, I am, to be honest with you, Mary, I am pro gun rights. I am the Second
Yeah,
Amendment rights. I'm for that. Now we're going down the slippery slope here because I know we're having this right now in the state in the United States right now with our issues.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I do believe that if a person is well, I think they're fine with having a gun. Because to be honest with you, right now, I have plenty of guns because when my husband passed away, he had about 15 guns. Now I have,
good lord.
yeah, he did. Yeah, he, got a man was a Navy officer and
But he
he
was in the army,
no, he was a Navy officer. He was in the Navy. He was in the Navy.
navy.
but
He was in
he
the military.
served with also the Marine Corps as well. He had to do a lot of shooting and ranging and all of that stuff. So he was just a gun collector. But obviously, I got rid of all of them except three. Now, obviously, I'm very well, stable, good to go. So there we go. So I do believe in people having a gun. Do I believe that? Do I think that an unstable individual have no need to have a gun? No, I don't think you should have a gun. I think once you've proven yourself that, for example, if you went out and harmed somebody with a gun, I think you have no business having a gun. I just don't think so. I do believe, though, in bearing arms. I do believe because I remember having that pistol years ago prior, before that. Let me tell you how I got the gun. And that was not my husband's gun. That was my gun personally. Because when my husband first went into the Navy, when we ended up moving to Norfolk, Virginia, I was in a house by myself. There was nobody there. And we was like, we're not living in the best neighborhood area. And so I brought it more for protection. And it really stayed in a lockbox for years, because I never had a need to pull it out. Obviously, I was not in a good place at that time in my life. I was in such mental anguish and pain that
That's what I'd be worried about, though, as somebody who's anti-gun. I do understand that people feel that they have to have protection. But I live on my own, and we don't have guns in this country, unless they're used for sport or something. Oh well, I say sport. I'm anti blood sport as well, but that's another day's story. But I just think that for somebody like you who had never used your gun, the moment you felt, I want to take my own life, that gun was so easily accessible, Bridgette, that had you actually not had those women to come to your door, and or had you not had the presence of mind to ring and say, I need help,
right. Let me
you
tell you
story
what happened.
would be vastly different.
With their marriage. So actually, a week prior, before that, before the suicide attempt, um, my husband had decided to go back to church. He didn't go back to that same church. We went to a whole I ended up at a whole
Completely different one.
read the book, a whole different church. And so what happened was, their obedience is what, that's why, in the book, on one of the pages, we're going to put, it was just shepherd's pie that saved my life. The pie is a metaphor. I hope you got that, Mary. Did you realize the
Yeah,
pie is a metaphor?
yeah. It's a metaphor for safety, and for somebody being there at that present moment to actually just
To
cut
do
that
what they did, to do what they
the
did.
to
So,
cut the cycle.
right. So here we go. So at that time, when they stopped at my house, I was already going into a downward spiral. I even actually went to the doctor, um, at least like, but within that week's time frame, I think I went back to the doctor at least like three different times. Seriously, I was really going down here very, 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 very quickly. Quickly, I was rapidly declining, and I knew this, but I didn't know what to do because I'd never been in that situation before, and I was just so in despair at that point. But when they came by my house that Sunday, it was a Monday. Correction, it was a Monday when they came by. They said, "Oh, we're such and such, so and so, and we understand you came by our church." And they were really was my husband, wasn't me. And I remember I went to the door and I had my robe on, and they was like, "Oh, well, we just want to thank you for coming by." So what are you talking about? They says, "Well, you came by our church, and we normally give a pie." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, thank you." And I was rude. I really was rude. Yeah, thank you. And I took the pie and I slammed the door, and I literally took the pie and slammed and threw the pie in the refrigerator. It really did. And later on, I think that evening I cooked dinner and we ended up eating the pie. And once I took the pie and threw the pie in the trash, and that was it. So I never knew that pie was going to save my life. How that
Yeah,
pie saved my life was when I got to the point of despair. And that morning, I contemplated back and forth in my brain space, is it worth me living? And I had to seriously think about this multiple times. I even prayed to God, God, I just don't see a way out of this. I can't. Maybe I'll be better off dead. And so at that time, somewhere in between me going to get that gun, putting my baby down in bed, and me going into my bathroom and taking the lockbox and opening it. And you gotta keep in mind, I've never opened up that lockbox because I haven't had no need to do it. I
Yeah.
opened up that lockbox and I pulled that pistol out. And I remember standing in that small bathroom and pulling that trigger back, and I was going to do it. But I know it was God Himself that,
Mm.
that He uttered to me, spoke to me, and said, "You don't have to do this. You
Mm.
don't have to do this. There is a way out." And I remember this, and I was such deep despair. And it's so funny now, I'm just almost in tears. I was in such deep despair that morning. I said, "But I have to." And He says, "No, you don't. You don't have to do this." And at that point, that's when the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, "Go to the trash can." Now it's funny. I was supposed to dump the trash that morning,
Yeah.
and I did not dump the trash that morning. And I remember in the midst of my despair and grieving and crying, I went to the trash can. And I remember rummaging through that trash. That pie had a flyer on it with a phone call on it. And I remember I went through and I picked it up and I pulled it off and I went back into the bathroom and I had my cordless phone with me and I continued to battle mentally. It was almost like I had an angel on both sides of good and evil was sitting there on my side. Do it. Don't do it. Do it. Don't do it. And I finally made a decision at that
Yeah.
point to dial that number. I put the gun down and I dialed the number. And immediately somebody picked up the phone. That's why I called.
But they sent the MPs, the
Yes, they
military police, to your house,
yes,
and
they did.
again, you didn't want to let the military police into you.
I didn't.
And did you think? I suppose, did you feel safer because you were living on a military camp, if you like? You were living with amongst military families. Did you one feel safer in that environment because there were so many people around and so many people who would be able to keep you safe? Um, in another way, then you did you feel that because your husband was in the military, I don't want him to know what's going on. I don't want the people to know that's working with him. And did that make it more claustrophobic in some respects because your grief wasn't what was more public?
Yes. And no, here we go. People think because you live on base that we're just one big happy family. That is not true. No, it's
No.
not. Oh, no, it is not true. Just because you live on base doesn't mean we got kumbaya going on every day. We just don't have that going on. I know for myself, I myself did not. I mean, I had like one or two neighbors I spoke to, but we have an unwritten rule in the military community. You don't air your dirty laundry because you know why?
Yeah,
It comes
I'm a
back.
great believer in that.
Yes, you don't air your dirty laundry. Number one. Number two, it will hurt your husband's career. So
Yeah.
therefore, you just don't put your business out there.
But all that is manifesting itself within you as well, because your grief is at one level, but then there's this, you're experiencing a sense of shame, if you like,
Yep.
unwarranted shame, and you don't want to bring all this unwanted attention on your husband and on you, and then you have your young children who you're trying to get out to school, and your 18-month-old baby who you've
Yes.
put into a room on his own to
Yes.
play or sleep while
Yes.
you take your own life.
Yes.
It's there's only so much a human brain can take.
Yes, and it was, and you're absolutely correct. And I think at that point I was at my breaking point. I had never been in my breaking point to that extent, but I really was actually I was over the edge at that point, and there was a lot of grief, shame, guilt, and all I could hear going on in my headspace was the things that the church had said to me, calling me all kind of names, the pastor's wife calling me crazy, all those things, and they rang loud and clear in my head and in my heart. My heart was broken. It was just broken.
But do you think that your heart, or you took those points to heart probably because you weren't in yourself, you weren't in a good place? Would those comments have washed off you on another occasion? Were they the cause of your grief, or was your grief was your emotional state one thing, and because they were saying this to you, you weren't capable of in yourself of pushing it aside and saying what they're saying is rubbish, what they're saying is irrelevant. You took it to heart more because you were emotionally
Well, you know
upset.
what? That's a good question. I think it was a combination of both. And and I learned too that I didn't have any coping skills, no coping
Yeah,
mechanisms in life. I kind of floundered through life, and I got married at a young age, and I had no idea how to really cope. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. I think it was a combination of both. Um,
yeah,
they could be pretty brutal though. They were pretty brutal, and it's funny because the last church that I had attended prior before the one I really well, right after this last church, the one that I really got to that was very healthy, they were very unhealthy in that church, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
knew
yeah,
former members that had been there, and they had said, yeah, they said, well, they're not healthy anyway, and the wife wasn't healthy, and the church members wasn't healthy, and so therefore, if you're not healthy, and then you got other folks that they're spewing things out and they're not healthy, my gosh, that is like that's a hot mess off the press per se, and
but
mhm,
but when the military police came to you and he said to you, not all Christians are bad. I
yes,
mean, that was probably another, if you like, metaphorical, uh, if you like, spirit on your shoulders saying, I'm here to help you.
that's
You
it.
know,
Yes, it was. Oh my gosh. I mean, Mary, when I went through what I went through and I finally got into a place of healing, and I literally sat there and I thought about it, it was a place of healing.
mm,
All those events, when I thought about them, I said, it was God
yeah,
who carried me in the midst of the storm that I was going through. And He showed me, even though you gave up on me, I didn't give up on you. I sent true believers to you when you needed them.
well, my mom used to have a saying, that God works in mysterious ways.
Yes, He did. He worked in
And
His ways.
and it's so true. You almost expect to, I suppose, angels or spiritual beings. You almost expect them to be mysterious and otherworldly, and they can sometimes just be human beings, the same as you. But do you think, Bridgette, that background of grief that you experienced, and I mean, I've gone through my parents died very quickly after each other, and my world turned upside down, and people you think were your family friends were anything but. And I've never known, even as an only child, loneliness and isolation like it,
Mhm,
because you're not equipped for being part of families, big families,
mhm,
and you think you're going to have people around you who are going to be there for you, and you finally find out that you're completely on your own.
mhm.
But do you feel that having those experiences are important because they help you now, as I said, J.K. Rowling's quote that I have actually above and below us here
Wow, yeah.
says, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which
Yes.
I built my life."
Mhm,
Do you think that having had those experiences have enabled you to be a better one listener and a better counselor? And at what stage was it, before all of this or after it, that you decided to become a counselor?
Actually, I've always wanted to become a mental health therapist. Always did.
Yeah,
And for whatever reason may be, I kind of got sidetracked along the way, or I didn't know how to get here. Now, my experiences of me going through what I've been through, oh, they have helped me tremendously to connect with others. And I've done it in such a way that, like, one, as we could say, I've heard people say, one can become an attorney, but are they a good attorney? Uh,
yeah.
like
Oh,
one
that's so true. That's so true.
can become a therapist, but are you a therapist that can connect with others? And mines have always been, I don't have to work any effort into it because I just instantly had a natural innate gift to connect and speak with others. It's just very natural.
Yeah,
Just sit and just listen and talk to people. I can do it on a daily basis and it doesn't bother me any at all. Because some people say, how can you do this on a regular basis? I say, because it doesn't bother me. Because it's not a job for me. See,
yeah.
you can have a passion and you can have a job. It's not a job for me. It's just
Yeah,
something.
you can have a job, but in order to be a therapist or to be a counselor, one would imagine one has to have empathy, and
Yes.
the greatest way of gaining empathy with somebody is to have gone through what they've gone through, and
Hmm.
you've gone through the whole gamut, if you
Yeah.
like. You've gone through the addiction.
Yes.
You've seen it in your family. You've also gone through the depression,
Yes.
and both physically and emotionally,
Yes.
and you're well, you're in a position to, you're equipped, if you like, better than most to
Yes.
counsel others.
Yes, yes. And you know what? Let me tell you something else. I know that God sent me through some crazy things, but one thing I do know, He allowed me to go through those things, and I grew as a person, and it made me a much better person, and it makes me human also to my clients. To be honest, some of my clients they knew I was writing a book, and they says, "So how can I buy this book?" I was like, so I told them where to go, and some of them was like, "Wow, so you do understand?" I said, "Yeah, I do. I get it. I get it." I said, "I'm not in a position I can sit here and give you all my business of my life because we can't do that. But you just got a snippet of my life." Now here's another piece that God spoke to me and just really just worked in my heart. I have provided therapy for widows and widowers for years.
Yeah, and you've done it free
Well, never done it for
in
free.
many cases.
I've no, never done it for free. But let me explain. Let me explain how that comes.
Okay.
Here's my other piece I want you to understand. I had never lost my spouse. So now it makes sense. Oh, I'll scratch your eyes out when you do stuff like this. So here we go. A deeper connection God gave me because I never expected to be a widow. Never expected it. We were on vacation one week. We planned out our whole retirement. The retirement was written down in this book. We said, babe, this is what we're going to do. Boom, 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 boom. We got home Friday. He was dead by the following Friday. But here's my point. When I went through this, my world got shut down, turned upside down, and it just stopped in midair. It said, what do I do with my life? What do I do with my life, God?
Yeah,
Why? Why? How? How could this have happened? But this is what he said to me in my spirit. In due time, you will understand this. But this pain you're going through, it will be able to help others in a way where you never have been before in your therapy. And at that time, God told me, you now are there with the widow and the widower. And he made me go back and think about when I sat down with that widow. And I'll never forget that first widow. And I kept saying, "Oh, I understand. Oh, I understand. And I'm so sorry." But God gave me a different tune, because he made me see you did not understand, but you understand now. You have a
mm,
deeper connection and a deeper understanding than what any other human being can ever understand. And at that time, I said, God, I now know, and I know why. I may not have the full understanding, but this is what I'm going to promise you. Every widow and widower that will come my way, I now will provide them with 6 free therapy sessions.
Yeah.
You will
Yeah.
get that for the I'm going to give that for the rest of my life. And I'm going to fight for them. And I'm especially going to fight for my veteran widows and widowers.
But there's nothing like there's I you know that there's so many, everyone's grief is their own. And people say, oh, I used to hate when people would say, oh, but such a person that they were very young, or they were very, or people have a tendency to saying to you that somebody else's pain or somebody else's suffering or somebody else's grief is worse because, and of course it's worse, but everyone's grief to themselves, or their pain, their own physical pain, is their own, and they can't imagine anyone else's, no matter how empathetic they are. You can only physically and emotionally feel your own pain. And I just think it's very hard when somebody experiences a sudden death, because though it's very good possibly for the person who goes, because they go like that, in the case of my dad, instantly.
Right.
But it's the grief, it's the people that are left behind, the questions that are unanswered, the the things that are unsaid, that you never got a chance to say. And that grief makes it, manifests it, or makes it threefold, I suppose, trying to get through. Why were they taken so quickly? Why didn't I get a chance to say goodbye? Why didn't I say this? Why did we fight before? There's so many whys when someone dies suddenly,
Mhm, mhm. Well,
with
well,
who your husband did.
right. So let me kind of give you some at least some helpful information here as well. After I read this book, it's called Widowed, and that book took me through a whole lot, and I really learned a whole lot. And one thing, and it was funny because as a mental health therapist, um, I just couldn't go to any and everybody because we live such a private life. We don't want everybody to know all our business. And I remember I went to our therapist that my husband and I went to years ago, and Dr. Bridgette, he's still alive, and he would never probably mention his name, even though he's going to go into retirement. He came. Well, when I went to him, I went into his grief as well, and and he said, "I just want you to know that I thank you for coming to me." He said, "Even though I'm going to learn from you." And I remember I was sitting in his chair and I was just crying so deep and so hard inside. He said, "I would never understand what you're going through." He says, "Because I've never lost my spouse." And I told him, I said, "If you never want to lose your spouse." See, the difference, Mary, is this, and I had to learn it. God had to show it to me. I stopped telling people when it come to their spouse, I understand, but I do understand now. To lose your spouse, I heard people say this, it's like you your right arm is off because
Yeah.
you're enmeshed in together. There's your world, their world, but we bring them together. We plan our lives together. We plan our retirement together. Our accounts were together. Everything was done together. And all of
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
just stopped in midair. So when somebody would say, to be honest with you, I would say, "Oh, I understand. I tell you, when I lost my mother," I'm not gonna lie, I was so angry. I said, "How dare you tell me that? How dare you?" I'm not saying the loss of your mother was not sad, but you don't understand. I lost my best friend. I lost my husband.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
spent my life with. We had children together. He was there for me when I lost my mother. I was there when he lost his mother and his father in the same month in the same year. Lost his mother on Valentine's Day. Lost his father on the 28th of February. I was there. He was me, and I was him, and we were together. I said, "It's different. It's different." It was so different. It's so different when you lose that spouse. We've known each other since the age of 16, since high school.
Well, it's funny, you say that. I can still remember when mom when my dad died, and I said, she said, I have no one. And I said, you have me. And she said, I know, but it's not the same. You're, I've lost my back. I've
There,
lost my support. I've lost my other half.
there you go. You got it.
And probably until now, it's not really resonated with me until you started speaking.
You know, your mother
That
was telling the truth.
it was a different love. It was a different. She said, and she said it. The love you have for a child is one thing, but the love you have for a partner is yet another.
It is.
Losing a child is a grief that will
Right.
never be equaled.
Right.
But equally, losing a partner.
Yes, you got it. You just got it. And your mother, when she said it, she meant it. And I know her heart, it was like a whole, I may be functioning and getting around Mary. And I thank God that He is giving me the at least the spirit of courage. I believe God propelled me to another level. He has me on a mission, and my mission right now, and my purpose and my goal is to fight for the widows and the widowers of veterans. And that right there is what I'm doing. I just actually patented No Widow Left Behind. I've got a patent for that now, and I'm starting a foundation for that. And I am not stopping. I am propelled to the next level. I feel as though that Alice is here with me and pushing me along the way. And I know this is why God sent me through this, because I am now the voice for others. And I know Alice would be there cheering me on and moving me along, telling me what I needed to do. But I know that I know why I'm doing this. And yeah, your mother, I understand her, and she meant it.
Yeah. Oh no, which was really remarkable because she was an incredibly independent person, and she was the last person I would have thought would have fallen to pieces when
Mhm,
at the loss of my father. Do you know, I
mhm.
thought she would have been stoic and upright, but no, it was a grief that she just couldn't imagine. So I can understand. But Bridgette, you are very politically
Yes.
motivated also, and I have a photograph here, a lovely photograph of you.
I just took that one this past Monday. Ted Cruz. That was my husband's favorite guy. He liked him.
He's incredibly articulate.
Yes, yes, my husband loved him. I loved him. Look, I remember him from the green eggs and ham that he did he did a filibuster all night long. And he read green eggs and ham to his kids that night. He stayed up all night long fighting the Obamacare. That was so funny. And my husband said, man, he said, that's my man right there. That's my man.
You actually brought about you actually brought in a bill. You were instrumental in the bringing in of a bill. Maybe you tell us about that.
Yes, yes. The deal was it was based on my husband's tag. Well, here we go. Here in the States, and it depends on, we have counties here. I don't know what you guys have in Ireland, but we have counties here. If you live
With
in,
counties as well.
okay, so here we go. Imagine living in Spotsylvania, but there's Culpeper on the other side. Well, the
Yeah.
rule is this. My husband had a tag. He had disabled veteran, and then he had an armed force tag. Well, the disabled veteran tag, he had a 2-year tag on the truck. So, I had to deal with that. And I waited until like 2 years. Matter of fact, it was the first year. And I went to DMV and I told the lady, I said, my husband passed away unexpectedly. I said, so what do I do about this tag? I want to just can I renew it early? And she says, well, yeah, you're allowed to if you want. And so when she began to look into it, she says, were you in the military? I said, no. And then she said, was the truck registered in your name? And I said, no. And she said, well, unfortunately, you can't keep the tag. Why? Because of those 2 reasons. And so at that point, she said, look, most people are they're too deep in their grief. They don't have the courage right now to turn the tag in. I'm going to suggest for you to do the following. You still got another year on the tag. keep the tag, and then think about it, and then bring it in at that time. So that's what she told me. Well, me, I'm like, okay, all right. So I didn't have time because I had so much other stuff. Another year went by, and I finally, had to. I went. This is what I tried to do. I went to another DMV. I said, I'm going to go to Culpeper, and I'm going to see what they tell me because I was trying to get around the system. And when I went to Culpeper, the lady did tell me. I said, well, look, I need to renew my husband's tag on this truck. He's deceased. Here's my paperwork. Yada yada yada. I wanted to see what she was going to tell me. Now, this lady, I don't think the lady knows the rules. If too bad I did not have. I'd have the other piece that she needed. And she said, oh, yeah, tag. And she told me, you can keep the tag. Well, me, I totally forgot the other piece of paper that I needed. And I said, wait, is there a chance you can renew the tag? Well, no, I can't do it without this particular piece of paper that she needed.
God, it's all red tape, isn't it?
Yeah. So
bureaucracy.
I didn't have time to drive back across town and go back and get this piece of paper. I didn't have time. So I ended up waiting about, a few days later, because I had at the end of the month to turn the tags in. I went to another county, and I went there with all my paperwork, and I said, look, I'm trying to renew my husband's tag. And this time I had all my paperwork. I said, I'm trying to renew my husband's tag. Obviously my husband passed away, and they asked me for my information. She came out and she says, you can't keep this tag. Why? I'm going to see what she's going to tell me. She said, I said, why? Were you in the military? No. What does that got to do with this? It's only for military people. She said,
but you were a military wife.
Yeah, I'm going somewhere with this one. And I said, well, wait a minute. I said, but I served next to him. Basically, he didn't get that rank just to get it because I was there. She said, I don't care. You can't keep the tag. She said, well, let me look at his registration. Were you on the title? Well, you looking in the system. You tell me. I already knew what the deal was. She says, no. Well, you can't keep this tag. I said, let me speak to your supervisor. So the supervisor came out, and she talked to me, and she said, look, ma'am, you can't keep this tag. Let's make the story short. At this point, I kind of got into a little verbal with the lady, and the lady was like, look, ma'am, she said, look, this is the best of what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to retire the tag, take the disabled veteran status off the tag. You can pick any tag you want in here. We'll take the letters that was on the tag, that you're saying that's significant, that represented his time served in the Navy. We'll take that and put that on a whole separate tag or a regular tag. That's the best I can do for you. In the meantime, this is what she said, I want those tags. Yeah, she was nasty about it, real nasty. Now I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to change it.
I think it's a prerequisite for certain jobs to be nasty.
I think so too.
I think they're trained.
For me, on the other hand, I'm like, okay, now I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get you because I'm going to change this whole law by the time I'm done. Well, she was real nasty about it. And by this time, I did what I had to do. And then she says, in the meantime, can you bring the tags in? Here's a paper plate to put on the truck. And we want those tags. But you know what I did, Miss Mary? I took those paper plates. I was hotter than fish grease, as country folks would say. And I was stirred up like a bee's nest at that point. And I left. Well, I didn't even put the paper plates on the truck. I kept the tag on the truck. And I remember my sister was in the truck waiting on me. She said, boy, you look upset. I said, yeah, I'm very upset. Here's my point. So we drove home. She said, well, don't you know them tags are dead, right? Yeah, they are. And I'm going to pull this truck back in the driveway, and I'll deal with this when I got more time. Well, I had already had the tags. I just didn't give them the tags. Eventually, I home, and I took the tags, put the tags in the window that represented his life. That's the way I looked at it. And so then what happened was the tags that they came in and they were wrong. They even spelled the stuff wrong. I had to go right back, get my car, and make them. And the lady obviously was still there. She was like, ma'am, we still need the tags. I said, I don't have the tags with me. You need to correct these tags right here. And I will bring those other tags back. That's what I told her. I wasn't planning on giving back them tags. So I was
And let me understand, are the tags those, they go around the neck? Am I
no. Well, we call them license plates. I call them
oh
tags. I
yeah,
call them military.
license
We
plate.
call them license plates. The license plates. So anyway, so at this point, I didn't even have them. I said I'll bring them back. I just wasn't planning on bringing them back. And so at this point in time, that's when something got stirred up in me, and I said, no widow or widower should ever go through this. This is ridiculous. I'm going to change this law. At this time, a friend came to me and said, did you know Delegate Mark Cole is going to retire? I said, really? Because he was in our district and I knew him and we were friends. We worked on a bill together. And I said, oh, I did not know that. And they said, we want to nominate you for you to run. Now, it was an opportunity for me to take a position at the General Assembly. But Mary, the problem was this. When I looked at the income on it, it's like a part-time job, $11,000 a year. I said that I can't feed my dog on that. I can't. So you want me to give up my private practice, which I run a nonprofit organization, by the way. Keep that in mind. A nonprofit organization. I'm not making billions. Keep that in mind. I said I cannot give up the practice that I have for 11,000 a year. I can't do it. It's just no way.
How much a year?
It's $11,000 a year.
Geez, that's very little.
I couldn't do it. And so at that point, I came in my headspace and I said, wait a minute. At that time when I declined to do it, because I know I could have won. I could have won the race. So at that point, they picked another guy. Well, the guy lived in my neighborhood. He's my neighbor. And so I went to him with an idea. I said, look, I know you're running. I'm going to help you win. And this is what I was thinking to myself. A win for him is a win for me.
You're another Alice.
A win for him is a win for me. And so what I did, let me tell you how good I did. I helped him. I had the precinct up the street from us, and it wasn't very successful. I got that man at least 85% of the votes. 85%. And I worked that precinct from sunup to sundown until celebration. He said, you have no idea how you helped me. That pushed him over the mark. Now, you know what I was already thinking. I'm getting ready to change some bills. I'm going to change some laws and push some bills through. So at that time, he was already on it. I said, okay, Philip, what Delegate Philip Scott, what we plan on doing? He said, I'm already on it. we were talking all summer long, and I said, I want 3 bills to go through. First bill I want to go through is to get my husband's tag back, and I don't want to make it so that it's temporary. He said, well, wait a minute. He learned that there was something in the law of the state of Virginia, but here was the problem. It was disjointed. This county could say you could keep it. This county could say you could not keep it because it was the truth. He said, I'm going to change the law. It's across the board. Change it for the whole state of Virginia. So we worked on that bill, and we went right in there and we changed that law. And thank you, Jesus, that law has been changed. And before we realized, they signed that bill, and that was like praise Jesus moment. The picture that you see when you go into the shepherd's pie, you'll see me actually standing there. That picture, the governor did that as a special ceremony for me because I passed that bill, and I did it for my husband's sake. He said, so the law states the following. People thought it was for the veteran. No, it's not. I did that for the widows and the widowers, the veterans' families that's left behind. So we will not have to fight for this. We are always in the shadows. People don't understand that. When that veteran passes away, the family members, they seem to be pushed to the side and nobody knows anything.
You see, Bridgette, grief is so all-consuming that when, in your case, your husband died, it was like you were losing everything then. You'd lost your husband. You were in this vacuum. You didn't know who you were because you had always been part of two. There was
Yes.
always two of you. Suddenly there's just you. You don't know where your place is in the world. And
Yes.
suddenly that which you had that's connected to him, it's only a simple little thing like uh, a tag, if you like. But that is the umbilical cord, if you like, that connects you to your husband. It's the one thing that's left, the physical item that still connects you to him, apart from your memories
Yes.
that nobody can take. But suddenly it's like they're telling you, okay, you're no longer a wife, you're
Hmm.
no longer part of two, and now you're no longer a military wife, or you're no
No,
longer part of the
always
military.
going to be a military wife. We're always a military wife. We're always that will never go away because we do get some of us we get their benefits, and there are other issues in that particular area. I'm fighting that as well. But you are right. That propelled me. It moved me to a whole new level, and I said, I'm going to change this law. No widow or widower grieving, going through the pain should have to go through this kind of craziness and dysfunction in a state. And I said, I'm going to
Yeah.
change it. I'm going to change it. And I changed it. And I was so happy. My matter of fact, the guy came to my house, delegates guy came to my house and he interviewed me because there was a little bit of a misunderstanding because the original bill, when it was signed, I wasn't there. And he said, well, I'm so sorry. I forgot to call you. And I know you wanted to be there when that bill was signed by the governor. With the governor, I wrote the governor a letter. I wrote him a long letter. And apparently, he was doing some kind of veterans service special ceremony for the veterans. And he sent for me. He said, I want her to be here. And he dedicated that ceremony basically to me and my husband. And I felt so honored.
Who knows, you could be a senator next,
Well, did you
and you
not
could be
know?
sitting in Congress with your idol.
Well, here we go. In 2019, I did run for Congress. I did. It was too early though. My husband had passed away in 2019. I was
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to find purpose in my life, and I ended up pulling out because it was just too soon, and I was grieving, I was crying, and I was just angry and bitter, and I made a choice not to. I got people wanting me to run for Congress in 2024, but to be honest with you, Mary, you know what? I'm doing better with boots on the ground. Now, I do want to become a lobbyist. I
I think if Alice had lived, I think she would have made. Well, I'd like to think she would have made a great congresswoman, and like you, she was a boots on the ground person.
yes.
Um, yes, she was very political. Yes, she was a Republican, but she was somebody who, if Alice said she would do something now, it
She do
was
it.
done. She would do it. I didn't know her I knew her for about well, I was Facebook friends with her for a few years
Mhm.
before we really got to know each other. And I felt like I knew her forever. And I feel like I've known you forever as well, Bridgette. And I really think Alice is looking down on the two of us really, but she's thinking of the lost opportunity of sugar and spice.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible.
It would have been a great podcast, Sugar and Spice.
Yes, we were thinking about doing all of that. Now here we go. I do have an opportunity. I'm meeting with somebody that Alice introduced me to, and I can't think of the lady's name. Um, Matter of fact, can you hold on one second? Let me see.
Yep.
I think I can find her name real quick. This person I'm meeting with on Tuesday. She wants me to do the following. She wants me to actually come and be a part of her podcast. And as far as I'm concerned, I can't really just go on somebody's podcast. I can't do that. But what I will do, I will make myself, available. The person's name is Dolores Reyes.
No.
Yeah, she's from the Montgomery County Republican Party. But anyway, I'm meeting with her and she wants me to get with her. She's going to interview me as well on a podcast, but she also wants me to join her podcast. And I don't know if I can do that or not. I'm such a busy lady and I'm working on my next bill. The next bill.
You need to space yourself out.
Yes, yes. Well, we're working on the next bill. The next bill is we're going to do a VSS tag, Veteran Survivor Spouse tag. So I'm working on that now. And I'm also working on 3 more bills. I got 3 more bills, not 3 more bills, but 3 more books coming as well. So I have that
Good
going.
Lord. I can't even motivate myself to do my second. I have all the research done for it, but trying to actually, because mine is on Nazism and childhood under Nazism. But one day I will write something really uplifting and something really. We all long to make to be the J.K. Rowlings of the world, where we're actually making money out of what we're writing. But
Well,
I don't think my books are books that you'd read going to bed, unless they might put you to sleep, okay, with the way they're written or the way it's written. But it's certainly not. It's a it's hard reading
right,
um,
right.
because of the nature of the work. But Bridgette, it was an absolute joy having you on the show today.
Thank you so very much for allowing me to just come and use this platform to speak. And my gosh, please, by all means, everybody, please go buy the book. The book is just exciting. It's got really
I'm
good.
just seeing here now if I can actually, if I can, if I can actually share the screen. Let me see now. Share screen, share, and Chrome tab, shepherd's pie, and share. That's what your book looks like.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
And it's called The Shepherd's Pie by Dr. Bridgette Williams. What does the Y stand for?
Yvette.
Yvette.
Yes, Yvette.
Actually, very French. Is your origin? Are your origins French?
No.
Because of your Bridgette and your Yvette.
No, you know what? It's funny. My mother was very good with naming children. She was excellent. My name prior before getting married was Bridgette Yvette Garnett.
Lovely.
Yes,
Mine is just simply Mary Catherine Magella. That's
yeah.
what I was christened.
No,
But
my mother was Catholic. No, she was Catholic. Like she named my brother Angelo Ron Carley Garnett. She named him from one of the saints. She was Catholic. She was Roman Catholic. She didn't she
didn't
didn't
practice it.
practice the faith, right?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
she
yeah.
would go. She would go now. Oh yeah, she would. But none of us. She didn't really like raise us as Roman
Yeah,
Catholic.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
And
I
that's a people.
yeah, and on my father's side, to be honest, I had Scottish in me because my grandfather, my great grandfather, he was my great great grandfather. He was actually white and Scottish, and so yes, I got a whole
Wow.
crazy line on my father's side.
Another that's another interview entirely. I'll have to have you on again.
Yes,
You
yes, yes.
Dr. Williams, thank you so very much for being my guest today on my story. And may you continue to do wonderful things and have huge success.
Okay. Thank you so very much again for allowing me to use this platform. And oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure again for us to get together. I want us to get together again. I mean, I really would. Um,
Absolutely.
we
Absolutely.
need to talk about my husband's death, which
Yes, indeed.
he died
Indeed,
on
Bridget.
grounds, and I still have an investigation. Still have not gotten the congressman that was supposed to did my husband's investigation. Still has not responded.
It's the story, story of politics, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Um, you know, well, Shindera Leshon Clara, that's the end of the show for today. Until the next time, Lacuna of Day. Bawalam to Gulerchia Connor, Sonas Agus Grow. I wish you peace, happiness, and love. Agus Gadesh Slán. Bye,
Bye.
Jet.